Thank you for joining us for the 2-minute drills. We're talking about the Pasadena area. I'm Aram Tolegian, joined by Steve Ramirez, and in the background, Fred Robledo.
Here, here.
We're talking about a couple big games. We could go, more than a couple big games really this week because there are some great ones. We're going to focus on two as far as the Star-News area is concerned. And we're going to start, Stevie, with Muir hosting Burbank in the Pacific League, and then we'll jump into some San Marino, Monrovia at the end of that. But back to Muir in the Pacific League. Muir 2-3, 2-0 in league, hosting Burbank, which is 3-2, 1-1 in league. Stevie, these two teams last year in the Southeast Division were semifinalists, and a lot of people are expecting a lot from them this year. I don't know. I mean, this game, it's pretty sexy on paper. It's because Crescenta Valley's 5-0 and just beat Burbank. It's not as sexy as it could be, but at least from a Muir perspective, this is one of the teams you got to get out of the way if you want to win this league title again.
Yeah, I mean, this was a pretty good game last year, and like you said, both teams went to the semifinals, but both haven't kind of lived up to repeat expectations, and this is going to be their chance. I think whoever wins this game, and I think based on last year, and I think CV is better than they were last year.
Yeah.
But I've always had concerns about CV's defense, and I think either of these two teams, or both of these two teams, might be better than CV, but we'll have to wait until we
I was actually pretty surprised that two Pacific League teams got to the semifinals last year, only because I've never looked at this as a power league. You look at what Muir's done in the non-league games, and I know they've played kind of a step-up schedule, but they've struggled and sometimes struggled really bad in those non-league games. It seems like they get to the Pacific League and everything's easy for them. No matter who especially last year, I think they ran the table pretty handily last year. They just seem, it's pretty obvious. Even though they lose a lot of players to Alamany and some of these private schools, they've got so much in the tank that they still have more football players than anyone else. So I think when they get into league and they play these tough schedules, they just have an air of confidence about them going into these games. I think they have a mental edge over teams in the Pacific League. At least that's the way it's felt like the last few years.
I would say in Muir's case last year, you're right. They did beat those step-up games last year, but they were competitive in them. And they had injuries earlier in the year, especially with their quarterback. But they got blown out in those games, and they weren't even scoring in those games, scoring high. That would be a concern, but they're back in their comfort zone now, and this is a team they beat. This is a team they beat last year. It was probably their toughest game of the league.
Because Burbank was that good last year. I mean, I don't think Muir making the semifinals was as much of a surprise last year as Burbank making it. And Burbank runs a nice system. They do a lot of things right. They're very well coached by Coach Broussard. But they are missing their stud running back who's out for the year, and that's kind of hurt them a little bit. I saw them play against PHS. They're a good team. They still do a lot of things right. They have a good system, and if Muir's not ready to play, or if Muir is screwing around on Friday night, they're going to be in trouble in this game. And this game is critical for Muir. They have to get Burbank out of the way, get that win, and set things up for that Crescenta Valley game in a couple more weeks, which I'll probably be at as well.
I mean, which game do you think is tougher though, Aram? Is it this game or the Crescenta Valley game? I think this is the game that ultimately decides the league title. I think Crescenta Valley is one of those 5-0 teams that haven't.
Crescenta Valley just beat Burbank, and I think in order for that Crescenta Valley game to be that, which game do you think is this or that? Muir has to beat Burbank, and so this is you want to put Burbank away if you're Muir. Give them that second loss in league, and get yourself moving on toward either being the number 1 or 2 team out of the league. I don't think the Pacific League's getting 2 teams in the semifinals this year. And I think when you start talking about Muir, they're the X factor in the division right now. We know St. Francis, we know La Mirada, we know Lusterno, we know Cathedral, all very good teams, right? Then you get down to Muir. Is Muir on the level of those teams? Hard to say that they are now, but if they can go through this league and finish the regular season on that 7-game winning streak and going to the playoffs at 7-3, then Muir might be
that's going to be
something to mention.
That's going to be the question of whether Cathedral is the number 4 team in the division, and even if
they're 9-1, they will be.
But even if Muir runs the table in the Pacific, are they that 4 team? You would have to give it to Cathedral because Cathedral beat them, even though without their quarterback.
Cathedral plays Sarah this week. You guys know. I mean, they play their rival Salesian.
Salesian, yeah. Okay, so we know that Muir has had some injury issues. Tayon Mason hasn't been 100% at least to start the season. Chase Keogh had some injury problems, the QB. We think they're going to be at full strength for this game. I think Muir is too fast. I saw PHS, their athletes give Burbank problems here and there. I think Muir's athletes are going to give them a lot more problems. Burbank will have its moments. If Muir screws around, they're going to get in trouble in this game. But if they play a clean game and a good game for Coach Hardy, I think Muir wins this game. I don't want to say easily, but somewhere in the 10-point range.
Yeah, I mean, they have to be very disciplined in this game, and I think they will be. I think they just have too much for Burbank, just like last year. I mean, Burbank had a couple big plays, but Muir had some huge plays in that game, and I think that's going to be the difference.
Right, and keep in mind, folks, Muir, they were 0-3 in the non-league. It was a very tough non-league. They're 2-3 now, 2-0 in league, but they haven't played anything in league yet as good as Burbank. Keep that in mind. Freddie, what are your
I like Muir in this game. I mean, I like Muir to run the table in the league. They're going to win this game.
So you think they're going to be 7-3?
I really do. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Freddie's got Muir as well. Now let's switch gears. We're going to go over to the Rio Honda League. Stevie, this is a game that's kind of important or special to you. We're going to give you an opportunity to get out of some things that you said at the beginning of the year. This is San Marino 4-1 going to Monrovia 4-1. For all rights and purposes, even though South Pass is 4-1, even though La Cañada is 4-1, we're thinking this is for the league championship, and it's only the first week of league.
Yeah.
Do you want to back out of your prediction that San Marino would topple Monrovia this year in the Rio Honda League, and that San Marino deserves to be ranked ahead of Monrovia? You've had 5 weeks of data.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch up on that just because at that point, you look at who the returning players are back for both teams, and you kind of make a judgment call. And I just thought San Marino had more key players back.
They had a key injury.
And that one of those players is out for the year, I believe.
Yeah.
Who's that? The running back?
No, he's a receiver.
The receiver, defensive back. But the players who have stepped up from either JV or who have transferred in, which is very few, but those players from Monrovia have really stepped up and kind of continued their winning tradition. And it's obvious that going into this game, I think the way both teams have played, you have to say Monrovia is the team to beat.
Here's the problem as I see it for San Marino when they play Monrovia. These teams have been getting together with both of them having good records, in the recent past. And it always just seems like Monrovia, for lack of a better word, out-athletes San Marino. And I think that's going to be the case again this year. The San Marino passing attack is fantastic. Carson Glazer, the junior quarterback, looks great. His receivers, Shofi, Crowley, they look fantastic. Their running back, Tenny McFarland, great. But now you're going to get these guys on the field with DBs that can run around with them. Okay, they're not going to run away from these guys. Now you're going to get Glazer on the field with a defensive front that's fast and can pressure him and pressure some of those throws. I don't think that San Marino is going to be able to keep up, so to speak, in a game like this. And conversely, if Monrovia's offense is finishing drives and doing what they need to do, then this game, I think, gets away from San Marino, and I think Monrovia, probably in the long run just dances off to another league.
Well, if I could chip in real quick, I mean, the one difference that I saw in Monrovia early in the year, before Monrovia used to be a team to me that had those X factors, those guys who could take over games.
Right.
Even if they had a bad game plan, you could always go to these guys, and they would bail you out. I do see this Monrovia team as a little bit more versatile on offense, which I liked.
Right.
I liked how they were playing team defense, at least against San Dimas. And you look at that St. Francis result, not the score, but how competitive they were, really tells me that their coaching staff is doing something right. But San Marino is a team, they've been knocking on that door. I mean, whereas, the South Pass and the La Cañadas, yeah, they have good non-league records, but they haven't come close. No one's come close to touching Monrovia in league. I don't know what their league record is. I don't know how many championships in a row, Steve, what the league winning streak is, but I bet it's got to be at least around over 25 or near 30.
5 or 6.
What their league winning streak is. Do you know off the top of your head?
Not at the top of my head, but I think they've won league the last the previous 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's at least over 25 games in a row that they've won. Yeah. I think San Marino is the only team that has a shot at ending that streak. And Coach Hobby, you got to give them a lot of credit because he's winning in an area where the demographics around him don't win. And I'm talking about South Pasadena.
Right.
I'm talking Temple City, or those other public schools that are around there that aren't able to do it. He's able to do it. And San Marino's always had football players. They've lost a lot of them to some of the private schools
They
like
still
that.
do.
Yeah, but they used to lose a lot more,
Yeah.
I think, before he got there. And I think he's got a lot of those football players' trust now. Are they ready to beat Monrovia? I think I said this to Aram off camera, that these two teams, if they had never played each other, they had no history. I like Monrovia in a game like this, probably by 2 or 3 touchdowns. But since this is a team that San Marino has been clawing after, they've been trying to go after, and they're trying to turn this into a rivalry where they can win some of these games, I think they're going to give them a great game. I think it's going to be 6 minutes left, fourth quarter, anybody's game, but I think Monrovia is just too good and is going to pull it out. That's my prediction.
I don't see it as that close. I think San Marino will make some big plays just because they have an eye for the offense. But I go back to San Marino playing Cal High and giving up over 30 points.
That loss bothers me. That loss bothers
Cal
me.
High is not Monrovia, and Monrovia is going to have the athletes that Cal High probably didn't. And again, like I said, you're not going to get those edges on the outside if you're San Marino. These guys are going to be able to run around with you. These guys are going to be able to run down your quarterback, pressure him. Some nice moments in this game, no doubt about it, but I think Monrovia pulls away.
And I'll tell you one thing about San Marino, what I'd like to see them do in future years is sort of what Monrovia is doing now and take on some of these better teams in the East San Gabriel Valley because...
Yeah, they will in the playoffs, Fred.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
Well,
you're going to get San Marino and Glendora probably in a month
I want to see some non-league games. I want to see how they do. But you're probably right. They get in. That's going to happen.
San Marino Charter Oak.
Yeah, but I'd like to see San Marino step up that, Cal was... I mean, who's the toughest team they played? Cal and they lost?
Cal or Arroyo.
They can do better. If you're trying to catch Monrovia, you've got to do better with your non-league schedule than what they're playing. That's my point.
Well, San Marino's Achilles heel, I would say at least the last 2 years, this year and last year, has been when they play someone of equal value or even someone who's better than them, they have trouble defensively.
Right.
I mean, they don't make stops at all.
Right.
And that's going to be something in this game. I think it's going to be more though. Like 2 years ago, it was kind of a close game, and then Monrovia put it away late.
San Marino had some interesting mistakes, I think, in that game though that cost them.
I mean, last year they just had no answer for Scobie. He just kind of took over that game. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than that.
Right. Okay, so there you have it, folks. 2 big games in the Pasadena area. With tons of league implications. We don't need to remind you folks to get out there and enjoy these, support these kids, and make the environment great for them to play in. We thank you for watching.